I'd like to welcome you to the May 19, 2014 annual town meeting. The clerk has certified that a quorum is present. Let me begin by indicating the fire escapes, 2 in the rear, 2 to my right and left, and 2 behind me. And I'd ask you to please rise for our invocation. We have assembled tonight to exercise this form of governance in which to order our affairs. Let us tonight come together in a spirit of community, recognizing that all of us are different and that there is room for healthy disagreement and constructive communication. Let us consider carefully our civic responsibility, not only to our generation, but the generations to come, so that we can leave to them a town as strong and beautiful as the one we have enjoyed. Amen. And please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. At this time, I would like to invite the Chair of the Board of Selectmen to the podium in front of the stage.
Good evening. Good evening. I would like to announce the anniversaries for the period of May 21st, 2012 to May 20th, 2013. Susan Adad from the Department of Public Works for 1 year. All of these are 1 year. Police Officer Joseph DeLacio. Police Officer Matthew Lacayer, Mara, Library, Gina Munson, Library, for 5 years. Diane Bishop, Director of Assessing. Firefighter Vern Bullock, Firefighter Bill Howell, Department of Public Works Stephen Morrow. 10 years. Sharon Bellanoy, Library. Mike Capella, Department of Public Works. Daryl Keene, Department of Public Works. 15 years. Tom Betchert, Firefighter. Joseph Gerando, Firefighter. James McCaffrey, Firefighter. Joseph Reale, Fire Captain. 20 years. All of the following employees work for the school department. Janet Banacotti, Cynthia Comu, Linda Costa, Patricia Hafey, Susan Jackson, Diane Lucier, Marianne McCarley, Donna Moore, Kristen Norton, Kristen Ovitt, Nancy Pilates, Decina Pesaculis, Kelly Phillips, Ralph Pilato, Mary Jo Rinier, Cynthia Savoy, Kim Turnberg, and Jane Tyler. Congratulations. 25 years. Deborah Berry, School Department, Kathy Saletti, School Department, Catherine Daly, School Department, Peg Jelinas. Library, Kathleen Goodchild. School Department, Larry Hummerson. Anne-Marie Jagodowski, School Department. Allison Johnson, School Department. Police Officer John LaCory. Firefighter Francis Santinello. Eric Smith, School Department. Susan Teal, Library. 35 years. Fire Lieutenant Gary Savaria. And that is it. Congratulations to all of our employees. I do apologize for any name that I may have butchered, but please give them a round of applause. It's always good to have people working for our town. Next, it is my great pleasure to announce our retirements for the year of 2013 to May 19, 2014. Joan Claffey, School Department, 10 years. Kathy Debaville, School Department, 11 years. David Gromowski, Superintendent of Public Works, Town Engineer, 12 years. Yes, feel free to applaud because they've done well. Cecilia Gilbert, School Department, 13 years. Elizabeth Plazak, School Department, 13 years. Julie Funkowitz, School Department, 13 years. Andrea Brewster Gray, School Department, 14 years. Nancy Donafirio, School Department, 17 years. Geraldine Martin, School Department, 18 years. Stella Metzger, Library, 19 years. Constant Frater, I think we know her as Connie, School Department, 20 years. Kathleen Fernandez, School Department, 24 years. Linda Roca, School Department, 24 years. Carla Shea, School Department, 25 years. Mary Collins, School Department, 26 years. Fonya Moore, School Department, 27 years. Deborah Nimitz, School Department, 28 years. Carol Shank, Recreation, 31 years. Deputy Fire Chief Stephen Rebecki, 32 years and 9 months. Police Officer Scott Stanford, 39 years. Shirley Skiffington, School Department, 41 years. Marilyn Ulick, School Department, 42 years. Patty Richards, School Department, 48 years. And Larry Sherpa, who I was a student in his class when he was first student teaching. He's still a young guy because I am still young also, 43 years. Congratulations to all of our town's retirees.
Thank you. At this time, I would like to also just formally announce and recognize the results of the election we had in town on April the 8th. For the Selectman, Bill Gorman. For Assessor, Marty Gudgeon. Public Works, Dan Burak. School Committee, Rich Ficero and Greg Thompson. Library Trustee, David Boucher and Diana Tiago. Housing Authority, Teresa D. Kavanaugh. And last but not least, with a few extra steps and more than was expected for unopposed candidates, the Planning Board, Tide Richards and Mike Carabetta. And congratulations to all of you. And I would also like to recognize, we heard that Dave Gromowski retired, recognize his successor in town, our new town Superintendent of Public Works, Bob Parent, who's with us this evening. And if I may ask Carl Olin to come to the podium.
Good evening. My name is Carl Olin. I'm the co-chairman of the 4th of July Parade Committee. And my purpose, once again, is to introduce the Grand Marshal of the 2014 parade. It is an honor to do so. However, before I do that, on behalf of the Parade Committee, I would like to thank the entire community of East Longmeadow for the continued support of the parade, because it would not be the success that it is were that not the case. This is the 17th year that we have chosen a Grand Marshal. The committee is made up of past Grand Marshals. Selection is based on some of the following considerations. It's a person who has participated in town events, has served on town committees, has volunteered for various activities, has been an active member of a civic group, a service organization, or a youth group, and so on, perhaps through a business affiliation or a religious group, has worked to better the town, but basically overall has contributed to improving the quality of life here in East Longmeadow. I'll read you the names of some of the past Grand Marshals, some of whom you may recognize, some of you may not. Some of them are no longer with us, but their legacy continues. Marshall Hanson, Joe Scanlon, Richard Clark, Baba Tranghese, Willie Ferrero, Chandler Newell, Jim Connor, Mike Boucher, Merle Safford, Bob Hildreth, Sue Grimaldi, Marilyn Richards, Dan Lacedonia, Lloyd Oakes, Jim Rintoul, and Jim Davis. Our candidate and Grand Marshal this year certainly fits into that category. This person has been a resident of East Long Meadow since 1973. He's married, raised 3 boys, along with the help of his wife, all of whom participated in the recreation department in high school athletics in soccer, wrestling, and track. Worked at Pratt & Whitney for many years and retired in 2004. He's a graduate of the Officers Candidate School and commissioned a first lieutenant in the United States Army. He's a Vietnam veteran and received the following awards: the Purple Heart, the Bronze Star, the Vietnam Veterans Air Medal, the National Defense Service Medal, the Vietnam Service Medal, the Republic of Vietnam Campaign Service Medal, and was an expert and received an expert rifle badge. Is a member of the American Legion and the Knights of Columbus and always attends the town's Veteran Day ceremony honoring veterans past and present. Taught CCD classes to 9th graders and would chaperone them in neighborhoods as they sang Christmas carols, accepting donations for UNICEF. Strong contributor to the Spartan sports program for more than 36 years. Coached T-ball and 3rd grade basketball for 5 years. Coached 7th and 8th grade girls basketball. Chaperoned ski trips with his wife for 10 years in the town's ski program. He served as the school bus transportation coordinator for 1 year. Coached high school summer soccer for 6 years and numerous East Long Meadow youth soccer teams for over 30 to 35 years. He's refereed youth games in town throughout all of this time. He's president of the East Long Meadow Soccer Association for more than 10 years, and so through his involvement, the program has quadrupled in size and the number of youth participating. He worked with and advised representatives from Long Meadow to assist them in starting their soccer program when the need arose in their community due to much interest from observing the success of the program in East Long Meadow. Was one of the initial town residents to support lights for the high school athletic field and ignited the bond between the football and soccer programs that led to the lighting of the athletic stadium in 1990. He was involved in the formation of the East Long Meadow Athletic and Activities Booster Club and served as president in his first year. As a long-time soccer coach in the East Long Meadow Soccer Association program, he was very proud and happy as 6 girls whom he coached were members of the East Long Meadow varsity soccer team, who in 2011 were the Division I Western Mass Soccer Tournament champions. Because of his dedication, scholarships in his name are awarded annually to girls and boys on the varsity soccer team at the end of the year season banquet. He has influenced hundreds of aspiring young athletes to be all they can on and off the field through positive reinforcement, and because of his caring and supportive attitude, his name is synonymous with soccer in the Pioneer Valley. And yet he continues to serve. He is a charter member of the East Long Meadow High School Athletic Hall of Fame Induction Committee. Since its inception, over 70 athletes, coaches, and contributors have been inducted into the High School Hall of Fame. He has spent countless hours of researching and verifying past athletes, their accomplishments, and he follows up committee meetings via full reports to all members by his handy laptop. He also prepares biographies for all inductees, which serve as the basis for the commemorative plaques which are on permanent display at East Long Meadow High School. I would urge all of you to take a walk down to the gym wing and take a look at that work. It's truly an honor for all the athletes, and I think you would enjoy that. He also assumes a very active role during the induction ceremony annually. Therefore, it is great honor that we introduce you to the Grand Marshal of the 2014 July 4th Parade in East Long Meadow, Mr. Ned Obernesser.
Thank you very much. Truly a surprise. I hope to come down here tonight to help our school department pass the school budget, and lo and behold, there were some ulterior reasons for my wife dragging me down here to this evening. So I thank everybody very much, and I hope everybody turns out for the 4th of July parade, and it continues to be held here in East Long Meadow for many, many years to come. Thank you very much.
Okay, before we begin, I'd like just to go through the housekeeping rules that we follow. And first, I'd like to welcome any new residents or new voters for whom this may be their first town meeting, and I hope you participate. Please make sure your pagers or cell phones are turned to off or silent. Voters should have a white tag available for view. Non-voters have red tags. And unless you are a public official known to me with a red tag, all red tag citizens or folks in the hall should be in the back right, my back right of the auditorium. All motions have to be in writing, and any substantive amendments to those motions need to be in writing. They get submitted to me, I initial them, and then I deliver them to the town clerk for the permanent record. If you choose to speak, please be civil and courteous. Don't refer to other speakers by name. If we need to have a teller count, we will have the doors closed and nobody will be permitted to enter or leave while that count is taking place. There are several matters on which you'll be asked to vote tonight which require a 2/3 vote, one of which being a proposal to transfer funds into the stabilization fund, and others being some changes to the zoning bylaw and acceptance of public ways. Under our town bylaw, if the moderator, which is me, thinks that 2/3 has been reached on a voice or standing count, that will carry unless it is challenged by 7 or more voters. And if that challenge is successful or takes place, then we will have a teller count to calculate the 2/3 vote. Our bylaw has general time limits on speaking, roughly 3 minutes, and the number of times a speaker may speak on an article, which is twice. And please don't be repetitive, either of yourself or of points that others have made. And finally, there are a number of financial articles on the warrant tonight, and our bylaw requires the position of the Appropriations Committee to be made, and I can tell you that with one exception, which we will come to, the Appropriations Committee has recommended all of the financial articles that will be put before you this evening. So with that, we'll begin with Article 1, which is essentially the acceptance of the town's annual report of the officers and committees. Each of you should have received a copy of the written report. There are multiple copies in the rear if you didn't get one. And please take a look at it. It is very informative about what all of the boards, commissions, and so forth that work on your behalf, what they have accomplished, what they've done. There's a lot of statistical analysis. There's also a copy of the arrangement with us as the surrounding community with MGM in connection with the potential casino in the city of Springfield. Article 2.
Mr. Moderator, I move the town appropriate the grand total fiscal year 2015 budget of $55,816,892. And in order to fund that appropriation, the town raise and appropriate the amount of $54,123,016. Transfer $100,000 from the Kindergarten Revolving Fund, account number 2606-3590. Transfer $105,000 from the Solid Waste Disposal Revolving Fund, account number 28053590. Transfer $50,000 from the Animal Control Fund, account number 28013590. Transfer $63,000 from the Insurance Revolving Fund, account number 28033590. Transfer $668,723 from the water fund, account number 123590. Transfer $636,023 from the sewer fund, account number 133590. Transfer $71,130 from the Community Preservation Fund Open Space account number 26153590, and any other available balances as required to balance the budget, all for the purpose and charges in anticipation of revenue for the 12-month period beginning July 1, 2014, to support the town's operating budgets as set forth in Exhibit A, printed with the warrant and entitled Fiscal Year 2015 Operating Budgets.
Is there a second?
My name is Russell Denver, and I'm chair of the Appropriations Committee for this year. And I'm just going to give you really a very quick synopsis of the activities of the Appropriations Committee to get to where we are tonight. The Appropriations Committee, as you can see on the slide behind me, has 7 individuals. We are appointed by the moderator to this for 3-year terms. It is the mission of the Appropriations Committee to present town meeting with a recommended budget for the next fiscal year and to provide recommendations on other financial matters before the town. The putting together of a fiscal year budget is almost a 9-month process. We start in September and November. You can see the activities that we take on. We hold a meeting with all the boards and committees and departments to establish budget guidelines. And you'll see the next slide or two will tell you that for this fiscal year moving forward, we recommended that all departments proceed with no more than a 1% increase in their budgets. There are certain fixed costs that have to increase more than 1%, and those are normally expenses that are beyond the town's control. But during the months of December and January, the departments work with their boards and committees, and they submit a recommended budget to the appropriations for review over the months of January through February, or February and April, through April. We then held the budget hearing in April, and then we are recommending this budget to you this evening for passage. So we have certain assumptions that we are working with. You can see the basic revenues that the town has in 3 major categories. There are real estate taxes of about $37 million, local and education state aid of almost $11 million, a little more than $11 million, and local receipts of almost $3.5 million. The largest local receipts are motor vehicle excise taxes. And I would like to just point out to everybody the local aid number that we have here, just for everyone to be aware, is an estimate. The local aid numbers come from your state legislature, and the state legislature has not yet approved a local aid number for any community in Massachusetts. It's kind of we fly blind on this. The number that is there is one that was put out by Governor Patrick in January, slightly modified by the House and Senate, but neither the House or Senate has approved the final budget. So that number we hope may change for the positive, but that's the number we're dealing with right now. So as I said, that we had a 1% increase recommendation with the following exceptions. $500,000 for added capital projects, which you will hear about after we approve this budget from the Capital Planning Committee. But it's things like building repairs, vehicles, town trucks, things that cost more than $20,000 over a period of time. An increase in the snow and ice deficit. I can tell you the total snow and ice deficit for this year was approximately $380,000. We need $162,000 to raise and appropriate to address that issue, and we will address the remainder of that money through interdepartmental transfers. An increase in abatement reserves, That is through the assessors. This year, we are asking that we put $50,000 into what is called an OPEB trust fund. OPEB primarily are the town's post-retirement liabilities for employees that retire from the town. Under state law, if an individual works more than 10 years in municipal government, they are entitled to access to lifetime health insurance. The town's current OPEB liability is nearly $17 million. It was our idea to start funding this. We know that it's not a lot of money for the first try, but we hope with town meeting approval we can increase that dollar amount each and every year. And $50,000 for appropriation to the stabilization account, which primarily is the town's rainy day fund. So how did we get to the 1% budget increases? It took some real planning by the departments and by their boards and committees. And on behalf of the Appropriations Committee, I want to thank every board and committee that worked with the departments to get to these numbers, because it really wasn't easy. As of this date, there will be some impacts, some smaller than others. You can see them up on the slides. Where there was more of an impact was in the school department. School committee, having watched some of their meetings on LCAT, I know struggled with some of this, but they were able to get to the number they needed to be within the 1%. You can see that they were able to get certain credits, reductions in their assessments, which for the first slide shows that they were able to do that and save about $193,000. They were able to make changes in some of their special education contractual services, out-of-district tuition reductions, and eliminate their newsletter, which is delivered through the Reminder. So that was an additional $73,000. And the last slide, with respect to the schools, was they actually had to cut to the bone. They were reducing positions. Not an easy thing to do when you're trying to maintain a first-rate quality educational district that we have. So you can see the elementary teaching position, gifted and talented position, paraprofessionals, and a custodial. So they reduced their requested amount by nearly $450,000. Certain positive cost savings and shifting measures. The employees and the town retirees get their health insurance through the town through a group called the Scantic Valley Regional Health Trust. And the trustees of that trust voted to keep the premiums flat this year. That resulted in an overall savings of $100,000. If they had not remained flat, the total amount of health insurance would have gone up $250,000 over the last year. It went up $150,000. That's the $100,000 savings that we're talking about. And later in this town meeting, you'll be asked to vote on the creation of a water and sewer enterprise funds. There will be a savings to the town of about $100,000 doing that. And then I am very pleased to inform you that for the first time in 5 years, this town will not be using what's referred to as free cash for operating expense. Operating expense are salaries and utilities. We are using some of the money for the capital projects that I referred to earlier. This is a plan that the Appropriations Committee put in place nearly 5 years ago, because 5 years ago this town was using nearly $1 million a year to balance its budget. And the plan that we had would reduce that amount by $250,000 each year. So we went to $750,000, $500,000, $250,000, and then zero. We are at that number right now. I'm very happy to let you know the town has had its bond rating increased. It's on the slide and it's also in your handout, and it talks about Long Meadow's strong financial management practices, strong focus on multi-year planning, and conservative revenue and expenditure assumptions. That is from Standards & Poor's, which is a nationally recognized credit rating agency, and it speaks volumes for the financial condition of the town. So the Appropriations Committee, over the 9-month period that we look at budgets, what are the major expenses that all of you should be aware of? Salaries, health insurance, benefits, retirement cost, and the capital expenditures. And there's an addendum to the handout that you received that just gives you a couple of examples of the things that the Appropriations Committee wants people to be aware of about how your monies are spent with respect to salaries and benefits. It's your dollars. You should know how those monies are spent. So now, to the numbers. Our recommended budget would increase nearly $1.5 million over last fiscal year. If this amount is approved, it will maintain Massachusetts Department of Revenue recommendation to have in reserves for the town between 5% and 8% of the community's operating budget. Our projected free cash number would be a little over $1 million, stabilization a little over 1.8 for nearly almost $2.9 million, or 5.42%. We're within that 5 to 8. It's something we've worked on, very hard to maintain. So the major challenges going forward, the slowing the rates of salaries and benefits. And if you've read the newspaper and watched LCAT, future capital projects. There was a lengthy discussion about either buying a new building for Town Hall or doing Town Hall renovations. You've heard the school department is on track, or at least has submitted the appropriate applications for the state to consider possible funding for a new high school. And the Capital Planning Committee has heard from the fire chief about the need for a possible new fire truck. All of those are big expenses that might have to be acted on moving forward. So on behalf of the Appropriations Committee, we urge that you accept our recommendation and pass this budget. It really is a lean budget for this year. Departments did a great job planning for next year, and we think that it's a budget that you can all be proud of. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Denver. And I would like to express my gratitude, and I'm sure of the gratitude of the townspeople, to the members of the Appropriations Committee for the hard work that they have done in recommending this budget, and also to echo Mr. Denver's comments, the various boards and committees for meeting the goals and the standards that the Appropriations Committee set early on in the process. What I will do is what we have done in years past. I'm going to go through the line items, and each of you, if you have a copy of the warrant, and there are additional copies in the back if you don't, on page 7 of the handout is Exhibit A, entitled Operating Budgets for Fiscal Year 2015. I am going to go down line by line in the column that is entitled FY 2015 Recommended. I will read the department, the account number, and the dollar number, and I will proceed down the page until we complete the page. If you have a question or an issue with respect to any one of the line items, please just shout out question, and I will mark that. When we're finished, we'll take a vote to pass all of the ones that were not questioned, and then we will go back and specifically discuss any of the items that had been questioned. So with that as background, I will begin. Line 300, Education, $27,417,965. Line 399, I should have brought my magnifying glasses. These numbers are smaller than I thought. $4,200. Line 914, Health Insurance, $5,232,799. Line 946, Retirement Assessment, $2,611,961. Line 710, General Fund Principal, $2,639,000. Line 710, Water Fund Principal, $446,772. Line 710, Sewer Fund Principal, $446,257. Line 710, Community Preservation Principal, $45,000. Line 751, General Fund Interest, $664,555. 751, Water Fund Interest, $171,951. 751, Sewer Fund Interest, $139,766. 751, Community Preservation Interest, $23,655. Line 421, Administration and Highway, $1,636,420. Line 429, Utilities, Gas, Electric, and Oil, $1,135,000. Line 422, Building Maintenance, $808,403. Line 423, Snow and Ice, $111,636. Question on that one. Line 433, Waste Collections, $57,948. Line 210, Police, $2,762,523. Line 220, Fire, $750,422. Line 241, Inspectors, $180,898. Line 199, Emergency Preparedness, $10,291. Line 155, Information Technology, $660,305. Question on that one. Line 145, Treasurer Clerk Collector, $403,684. Line 122, Board of Selectmen's Office, $331,558. Line 141, Board of Assessors, $268,449. Line 135, Town Accountant, $245,285. Line 151, Law Department, $98,000. Line 159, Operational Support, there is no number. Line 160, Elections and Registration, $36,480. Line 131, Appropriations Committee, $3,000. Line 114, Town Moderator, $650. Thank you. Line 430, Trash Collection, $955,000. Line 541, Council on Aging, $275,773. Line 543, Veterans, $110,480. Line 519, Board of Health, $83,412. Line 292, Animal Control, $25,218. Line 610, Library, $671,323. Line 630, Recreation, $166,182. Line 693, Celebrations, $7,864. Line 132, Reserve Fund, $250,000. Line 910, Payroll Tax, $460,075. Line 945, Liability Insurance, $343,000. Line 912, Workers' Compensation, $186,850. Line 175, Planning Board, $133,378. Line 171, Conservation and Zoning, $5,039. Line 947, PVPC Assessment, $2,500. Question on the PVPC assessment. Moving to the other funds below. Line 12, Water Fund, $1,680,916. Line 11, Sewer Fund, $1,115,049. And I will now ask for a vote on all those in favor of the unquestioned items. And just for clarity purpose, the items I have marked as questioned are snow and ice, information technology, and PVPC assessment. All those in favor of the budget as presented and recommended, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Okay, those have passed, so let's go back and start with the snow and ice amount of $111,636. There was a question. Does the individual who raised the question have a question? Well, hearing none. All those in favor of approving the line item for snow and ice of $111,636, please signify by saying aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. That carries. The next question we had was information technology. The amount was $660,305.
Good evening.
Could you move the microphone up or speak into it, please, just so everybody can hear you?
Good evening. I was wondering if somebody could elaborate on what that budget consists of.
This is Tom Caliento, our town accountant.
Yes, that's our information technology department, and there's approximately 5 or 6 employees in there who maintain the entire computer system of the town. That includes servers, backup servers, UPSs in case we have failure. They also help with folks that have issues with their computers and try to assist them with hardware and software, both for the high school and the town.
Does that include any new hardware for the high school?
The replacement for the hardware for high school is primarily with a capital item.
Okay, so that's
request.
not part of the capital item then?
No, capital item is going to be separate in Article 3, and we have had past capital articles that have addressed and supported hardware for the high school.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions with respect to this line item? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of approving the line item budget for information technology of $660,305, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. That motion carries. And finally, we have the PVPC assessment of $2,500. There was a question on that. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'd like you to elaborate on that. Why do we go to the PVC, or Pioneer Valley Planning Commission, for all these? Seems to me we should have something in-house that could take care of it.
The Pioneer Valley Planning Commission is located in Springfield, and it is a group that supports planning and data for surrounding towns in western Massachusetts. We often go to them for data regarding planning issues in town. If we're going to be zoning a certain area of the town for something, or we need data to compare our town to other towns regarding certain planning issues. I think they're a wealth of information. They have a lot of folks that are very well educated in municipal planning, so we look to them for advice and information.
Do they have much to say about our bike trails?
I say it's doing pretty good.
Okay.
Just briefly, I am your town's representative on the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission. I'm a commissioner, and I'm on the executive committee of that board. we are charged about 15 cents per resident. That's 15 cents as part of this assessment. The PVPC was central to the surrounding communities' negotiations with MGM. All of these assessments actually come back to the member communities through local aid. The vast majority of PVPC's money is funded through grants, federal and state. This very small assessment simply is our membership dues in there, and they have done many, many things to keep us current on what's going on statewide in zoning and planning, as well as nationally. And I think they're a great organization, and we really need to be a part of that in order to be in touch with what's going on around the state. Thank you.
Could you tell me if they had anything to do with the census for the bike trails?
I'm not sure what you mean about the fences.
Well, there's a little surface transportation plan for the 21st century, and transportation enhancement limits funds to work commuters, not for recreation.
Back when we did the rail trail, when it first started, PVPC, their traffic engineers were central to our getting the federal money that we needed to make that thing happen, and helped us with the planning for that. So yes, they were a big part of making that rail trail happen.
So they got funding from the federal government that they weren't supposed to get.
Well, I'm going to say that's not really germane to the issue of whether the town will vote to approve the $2,500 in the line item budget. There may be issues you want to discuss with Mr. Kingston as the representative of the town's representative for PVPC. But, whether or not the funds were appropriate from the federal level for the rail trail is sort of ancient history as far as this assessment is concerned.
Well, I'm getting to the point that there was 126 people in this town that said they would use the bike trail to get to work every day.
Okay.
And I
Thank
never saw any down there that were going to work. And Springfield's a lot worse, so I have problems with it.
Thank you, sir. Any other discussion on this line item? Okay, the line item is for PVPC assessment of $2,500. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Nay. All right, that carries. Thank you. And we now have our operating budget. Article 3.
Mr. Moderator, I move the town vote to raise and appropriate $500,000 and transfer $339,129 from the general fund unreserved fund balance account number 01-3590 and to fund the general fund capital projects numbered 1 through 7 as shown in Exhibit C, and to transfer $261,250 from the water fund unreserved fund balance, account number 12-3590, to fund the water fund capital projects numbered 1 and 2 as shown in Exhibit C, and to transfer $50,000 from the sewer fund unreserved fund balance, account number 13-3590, to fund the sewer fund capital projects numbered 1 as shown in Exhibit C.
Is there a second? Go ahead.
Evening, folks. My name's Eric Madison. I'm the chairman of the Capital Planning Committee for this year. We're going to see if Tom can keep up with me on the PowerPoint on this one. So there's various members of the Capital Planning Committee, all appointed either by the Board of Selectmen or the moderator or a combination thereof, or assigned through the town's bylaws as members of the Appropriations Committee. This group meets starting in September, generally through the month of February on Monday evenings to put together a capital project plan that we can then bring to you for approval at the town meeting. So this year, we had 33 projects presented to us, totaling $5.6 million in requests. We approach this with the objectives of evaluating each and every project for urgency, need, and benefit to the community. We prioritize all the projects submitted based upon the outcome of our evaluation, and we assign the highest priority project number 1, the next one down number 2, and so on until we have a list number 1 through 33. This allows us to do our work even though the budget might not yet be formulated with the Appropriations Committee. We then will assign those available funds to the highest priorities. We work with the Appropriations Committee throughout the year to establish a budget for new spending, and ultimately we bring those recommendations to you, the voters, at the annual town meeting. So that review, during that review, we place each project into a specific category that helps us evaluate them. Those categories are public safety, and those are obviously items that provide a safer or safety to the public or could provide a safety to the town employee. Government mandates, which are obviously any new mandates that come from the government to run any of our current services or programs. Capital infrastructure maintenance, and that simply is our buildings, our vehicles, all of our assets, our material assets in town. Improved operations, which would be any capital project that would improve a current operation or program in town. Energy efficiency. The DPW, for example, comes to us frequently with projects that will increase the energy efficiency in town and have long-term savings to the town. Quality of life projects, and those are things like the sidewalks or the athletic fields, things along that line. And last, new operations, and those would be any new projects or representing any new item or program to the community. This year, the committee placed emphasis on maintaining our current infrastructure programs and assets. Again, prioritized based upon need, urgency, and benefit to the community. We're coming to you tonight with our highest priority projects matched to the available funding sources. So what are our funding sources? General fund, which is funds raised from taxation, that's what we're all doing here tonight, including any debt payments should we recommend any borrowing. The water fund, which is revenue generated when you pay your water bill. Sewer fund, obviously revenue generated when you pay your sewer bills. If available, we try to utilize money from previous year's closed capital projects. Free cash, which is unexpended funds from the general fund from previous fiscal years, in other words, our reserves. Special accounts that are revenue raised for specific purposes to support that purpose. An example of that would be the LCAT revolving fund. So the projects recommended for 2015. For the school department, replacement of the dry vit exterior system at Birchland Park Middle School, and that's the exterior finish of the school, where it's cracking, chipping, and in some cases losing rather large chunks of it. $217,900. The replacement of the chiller system at Birchland Park Middle School, $38,700. Now, some of you may recall last year we appropriated a sum of money for the repair of the chiller system at Birchland Park Middle School. When they went to do those repairs this year, they found the system was far worse than anticipated, requiring full replacement. This $38,000 will be joined with the money we appropriated last year to do the entire project. 2 new police cruisers for the police department, $77,000. Under the Department of Public Works and Maintenance Department, sidewalk fund, $75,000. This is simply the money they use to either replace deteriorated sidewalks or add new sidewalks in town. Air handler system for the town hall, $30,000. I do want to make a note here that there has been a lot of discussion about possible renovations at the town hall or even additions at the town hall. We did check into this extensively, and essentially this unit is based upon the size of the area that it serves and will continue to serve if renovations do occur at the town hall. So it will not be a waste of money. Fire alarm system at the police department, $25,000. In information technologies, now this serves the schools and the town. What we're calling a technology maintenance and replacement program. It includes computers, servers, thin clients, tablets, wireless technologies, cameras, radios, telephones, everything having to do with IT. We've put on a replacement program so that we don't find ourselves in a position where we have to outlay thousands and thousands of dollars unanticipated, and where we have a good maintenance and replacement program, $375,529. For the water department, the replacement of the water main on Millbrook Drive, $195,000. Replacement of the water main on Hunting Road, $66,250. In the sewer department, inflow and infiltration project, $50,000. That's simply a project where they check our sewer system to make sure that it's not being infiltrated with groundwater, causing us to pay for sewer that we shouldn't be paying for when it's sent over to Bondi's Island. This project typically has a very good payback on it. Total recommendations for this year's capital planning: out of the general fund, $839,129. Water fund, $261,250. And sewer fund, $50,000, for total capital recommendations of $1,150,379,000. Broken down as follows. In the general fund, raise and appropriate $500,000. Transfer from free cash, $339,129. And then from the water fund, $261,250. In the sewer fund, and these are unspent funds, these are the reserve accounts, $50,000. With that, I will entertain any questions if there are any.
Thank you, Mr. Madison. And again, on behalf of the town and certainly myself, I thank Mr. Madison and the members of the Capital Planning Committee. They likewise put in countless hours. There are, as you just heard, a number of needs that are important to various boards and the school and others. And obviously with limited funding, difficult choices have to be made and priorities have to be set, and it's a process that is ongoing over a 9-month period or so. So thank you again for the time you put in. As we did with the operating budget, I will go through, now I'm on page 9, entitled Exhibit C, and I'm going to go down line by line in the various listings under the column entitled Amount. I'll read each of the projects and the amount attributed to each. If you have a question with respect to that, please say so and I will mark it. We will vote on all of the ones that are not questioned and then come back and deal with the ones which may be questioned. This year, for the first time in my recent memory, in any event, none of the funding being sought for the capital requests is coming from borrowing of any fashion, which means that a majority vote is all that is needed for each of these particular line items. So with that, number 1, replacement of drive vid exterior system, $217,900. Question on that? Number 2, full replacement of the chiller system, $38,700. Question on 2. Number 3, Information Technology Maintenance, $375,529. Question on number 3. Number 4, new air handler, $30,000. Number 5, conventional fire alarm, $25,000. Number 6, 2 police cruisers, Ford Interceptor SUVs, $77,000. Question on that line item. Number 7, sidewalks, $75,000. A question on sidewalks. Moving down to the water fund, Millbrook Drive, replace water main, $195,000. Water fund number 2, Huntington Road, replace water main, $66,250. In the sewer fund, sewer inflow and infiltration, $50,000. All right, so I would ask for a vote on all of the unquestioned items, and the items I have marked as being questioned are numbers 1, 2, 3, 6, and 7 from the general fund projects. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. That carries unanimously, and we go back now to line item number 1, the replacement of the dry vit exterior system for $217,900. Yes, sir.
Birchland Park School must be a lot older than I think it is. I find it inconceivable that the siding has fallen off of that building, a masonry siding. Can somebody explain that? And can somebody also tell me how old the building is? Maybe it's older than I think it is. Also, the same thing with the chiller. Doesn't any of this product have a guarantee from the manufacturer?
I can assure you the Capital Planning Committee had the same questions, sir. And I guess the first answer is the building is older than we thought it was. It's, 12 years old now? 14 years old now. So any of the items in there are far past their warranty, including the siding and the ventilation system. So now I can tell you that the members of the Capital Planning Committee, we had the same questions, and we physically went out and walked around the school and looked at all the damage on the system in order to convince ourselves that we really needed to spend this kind of money. What I can tell you is how the committee felt is after viewing the system, the dry vit system out there, that whether we like it or not, it is damaged and it does need to be replaced, and for the money that they're asking for us not to maintain the school, to find ourselves in a position to where we allow the school to deteriorate to a point that it's not repairable or it costs a lot more, just wouldn't be a wise thing for us to do. So I sympathize with your concerns. We had the same concerns, but the reality exists. The system needs to be repaired.
Well, I would just urge whoever's responsible for the new contract would get the contractor who's going to win that contract to warranty his work and the product this time for some length of time. Make that a guarantee, part of the contract.
We can appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any additional questions? Okay, we'll take a vote then on line item number 1, replacement of dry vit exterior system, $217,900. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Nay. That carries. Another question on line item 2, perhaps it was the same individual who questioned the full replacement of the chiller system for $38,700. Are there any additional questions? Yes, sir.
Yeah, the chiller systems I've seen, boy, they last a lifetime. You know, we're not talking about a 4 or 5 year guarantee like a car. So what kind of chiller system? What's this new stuff we're putting in? Junk? About the same thing as he was saying.
Well, I don't know how to answer
It's
that.
like putting a boiler in your house. You don't expect it to go in a couple days. Something's wrong with who's ever writing off on this stuff, clerk of the works or whatever.
Thank you, sir. Any additional questions? Okay, on line item 2, full replacement of the chiller system, $38,700. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. That carries. Line item 3, technology maintenance, $375,529. Go ahead, sir.
Mr. Moderator, we've already voted in $660,000 for information technology, and now we have another $375,000 for technology maintenance. Is there a correlation between the two? I'm concerned about what I've heard. The parents are going to be asked to pay $60 per month for the use of computers in the high school, and I was wondering if any of these funds are going to be used for that purpose.
Mr. Madison, can you address that?
The amount that you appropriated earlier as part of their budget is what pays the salaries of the employees of the IT department, a great deal of software, annual expense related to software used by a variety of departments in town, and some maintenance money. This money under the capital project is for actual hardware, for physical, the computers, the telephone systems, the servers, the actual equipment itself. You didn't appropriate any money in the budget for the replacement of equipment. You appropriated money that pays their salaries and it pays the ongoing expenses related with software and so on and so forth. This is the actual replacement of equipment. As to how it relates to the schools, I don't have that information. I don't know if Gordon could offer some.
I think the point you were referring to is a technology plan for the school department, which actually is a 5 to 6 year plan, and in the 5th or 6th year we would be investigating the possible lease to own. But that's well down the road. It has nothing to do with the capital budget.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Any additional questions? And all those, yes, sir.
I'm afraid I have an old subject I like to bring up when we're spending money, and it's called return on investment or return on expenses. I wondered if that could be part of the programs of identifying the priorities for these projects. A return on investment is of value for the money we expend. I appreciate your answer. Thank you.
I think we do look at the return of investment in terms of productivity and in terms of services to the community. We're obviously not an industry that has a return on investment in terms of dollars back to the community. That's not what we do. So yes, the committee does look at return of investment in terms of productivity, services, and things along that line. Education, because a lot of this goes to the schools in town. So yes, we do look at return of investment, but it's not in terms of dollars and cents.
All right, hearing no further discussion on this, we're voting on line item 3, technology maintenance, $375,529. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Nay. That line item carries. The next item I have marked as question is line item 6, 2 police cruisers, Ford Interceptor SUVs for $77,000.
I just have a question in regards, the last few, I'd say 6 years, the police have acquired new cruisers. How long do the cruisers last?
I'm probably going to mess up this answer because I don't have those notes in front of me, but they have, I believe, somewhere between 8 and 10 cruisers. They replace 2 a year.
Yeah.
So they're getting, I believe, somewhere in the 150,000 mile range to 200,000 miles on some of the cars range before they get rid of them. I can't tell you what that is in terms of years. Some are sooner rather than later, depending upon the use of the vehicle in the department. So they're measured more in miles than they are in years.
So you're saying 150,000 miles for a police
150
cruiser
to
is the life of the
200
car?
150,000 to 200,000 based upon its use. Yes.
And it's used basically 24 hours a day?
Well, as an example, a vehicle that, for example, the detective used probably doesn't get the use and abuse, if you will, that a patrol unit does. So the patrol unit might get replaced a little bit more sooner than does a detective's vehicle, if that helps.
I understand what you're saying. I'm just saying, all of these brand-new cruisers for, like you said, eight police officers that are on duty all the time, is that...
No, I didn't say there were 8 police officers on duty all the time. I said they have between 8 and 10 vehicles, I believe, on the department. So
And
we're
that's-
replacing 2 a year.
2 a year for what, the next 100 years?
Yeah, basically. Yeah, essentially, if at 2 a year, you know, the cars are lasting, I don't know, do the math, how many years, but they're getting about 150 to 200,000 miles out of it before we get rid of it. So, yeah, 4 to 5 years on a cruiser.
Per cruiser?
Yes.
Even with the
depending on its
maintenance?
use. Again, depending on its use. Like I said, the patrol units might not get the length out of them than does a detective's car.
It just struck me strange because I've only been in the town for 7 years. In the last 6 years, they've gotten 6 new cruisers.
Yep.
And you're asking for 2 more.
Two a year, sir. We replace 2 a year. Yes.
Yes, sir.
I took a ride around in a car that was replaced with the IT director. He got the old Chief's car. I got to say, that car is better than the Mercedes I own. I wanted to take my shoes off. It got 150,000 miles on it, but we only got 3 or 4 miles across town here. I think we should be keeping these cars a lot longer than we're keeping them, and I don't think the miles has anything to do with it, because these cars, the cars you buy today, go a lot longer than they used to go. And I think before anybody votes on it, they should be looking at these vehicles and see the condition they're in before we just keep swapping them off like we're doing.
All I can say to that, sir, is that these projects come to us from the departments under the purview of the Board of Selectmen, and they go to the Board of Selectmen before they come to us.
Yes, sir.
Do they have in-house maintenance on these cars? They do need oil changes, they do need minor repairs.
I don't know if they do them in-house
just
or
like
farm it
anybody
out,
else's
sir.
car.
I don't know if they do it in-house or farm it out.
Years ago, I caught them in I said, there's a car that you're just using to pull a trailer around for a speed sign and only got 92,000 miles on it. I bought cars with more than that on to begin with.
I don't know if they
So
do
where's the maintenance? And then we heard on the radio one time, the engine was knocking, oh, just drive it in. This is how we operate.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we'll vote now on line item number 6, 2 police cruisers, Ford Interceptor SUVs for $77,000. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Nay. That motion carries. I'm sorry? The final item I have marked as questioned is line item 7, sidewalks for $75,000. Is there a question on that? Yes, sir.
Is that to renew, reconstruct, or what? Just what is it for? I can point to a lot of places with no curb cuts in this town. It's supposed to have been done 20 years ago.
I believe the money, sir, is used both for reconstruction of deteriorated sidewalks and for the construction of new sidewalks.
Just not deteriorated. Sometimes you get frost heaves. Federal specifications are to the 1/4 inch on a lot of these in pitch. And I've had to call them, and I know they don't like it, but you have a right to federal specified sidewalks. It's a no immunity mandate.
Thank you, sir. All right, we'll now vote on line item number 7, sidewalks, $75,000. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. That carries, and that completes the capital budget. Article 4.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Paul Federici, Board of Selectmen, and I'd like to begin by thanking all of you for being here. I know everyone has busy schedules, and it's great that we get you out here to help in the governmental process of the town, because without you, we couldn't do anything. So, Article 4. I move the town vote to raise and appropriate $50,000 to the Stabilization Fund, account number 8216.
Is there a second?
Just to reiterate what Mr. Denver so aptly went through during the budget presentation, the stabilization fund is part of the cash that we set aside. It's basically our rainy day fund, and it's part of the cash that we set aside, and that's part of the money that is held and is used to increase our bond rate. It's part of that 5 to 8% that we set aside.
Is there any discussion? Any questions? Okay, under state law, any transfers into or out of the stabilization fund requires a 2/3 vote. So all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. That carries unanimously. Article 5.
Article 5. I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate $50,000 to the pension fund, account number 8202. Once again, as Mr. Denver had explained before, we have a deficit in our pension fund for future retirees, and the town is making an effort to start funding that shortfall. And from what I understand from the meeting that we went to in January, the Mass Municipal Association, we're not alone. There's many, many towns in the state with the same problem, but we're taking a proactive approach to start funding that.
Yes, sir.
Good evening. So you're asking for $50,000? Okay, now it's $17 million, the deficit. So that's a proactive approach, $50,000 towards $17 million.
As Mr. Denver said, this was suggested by the Appropriations Committee, and it's a start. Obviously, we'd like to in future years increase the amount, but we have to start somewhere.
Well, wasn't it a couple of 2, 3, 4 years ago, went from 11 billion to 17 million? This is unfunded, isn't it? Can you speak to that?
The town currently has an unfunded OPEB liability of approximately $17 million. I believe your question is 3 years ago it was at 6. It's now at 17 million. So as part of the handout from the Appropriations Committee, you see how the future cost of retirees continue to expense out to the town. So in our example, in our handout, if someone retires from the town at age 55 and lives to age 75, the town is still, quote, paying that expense of $130,000 extra dollars for that individual to cover their access to retiree health insurance, which is a state law that they have access to that. So the goal of the Appropriations Committee is to start at $50,000 and each year increase that amount of money to do that. This is currently, there is no state law requiring funding of an OPEB trust fund. This is a proactive approach by the Appropriations Committee to start the process and get it moving.
Okay, all right, so let's go over these numbers again. $50,000 is what you're asking for to put towards $17 million. That was $6 million a few years ago. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay, all right, so that's proactive. Now let's take a look at that I didn't ask questions on this, and this is where the key is.
Mr. Townsend, doing nothing would not be proactive.
I understand that. What's 50,000 of 17 million? If it went from 6 to... I'm sorry? I'm sorry?
Please direct your comments through the moderator, sir.
Okay. 50,000 towards 17 million is not proactive in my opinion. All right, if we looked at health insurance, that's something I didn't ask a question on. I believe that was Article
Well, if it's
Exhibit
nothing...
A, 914. But anyways, this health insurance is what we're talking about right now, isn't it?
No, we're talking about the other pension-related benefits or retirement benefits, health insurance and others.
Which is health insurance.
Correct.
Unfunded.
So what is your question, sir?
My question is, it's 50,000 is what we're being proactive
That has
towards.
been repeated several times
Okay,
now. You're
all right.
being asked to vote on $50,000 towards the start of a fund that right
That's
now has
17
an
million in the
unfunded
hole.
liability of
Okay.
$17 million. Any further questions? All those in favor of Article 5 for the transfer of $50,000 to the pension fund, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Nay. That motion carries. Article 6.
Somebody took the bunch of papers that were supposed to be up here. Did I have them returned? In the meanwhile, I'll start reading the article. Mr. Moderator, I make a motion to move the town-approved interdepartmental. Okay, great. The interdepartmental transfers from FYI 14 General Fund operating budget as follows. $100,000 from the General Fund Reserve number 132 to Health Insurance Fund number 914. $84,576 from the General Fund Reserve number 132 to the Snow and Ice Fund number 423. $77,877 from the Trash Collection Fund number 430 to the Snow and Ice Fund number 423. $48,772 from the Retirement of Debt Fund number 710 to the Snow and Ice Fund number 423. $40,772 from the Board of Selectmen Fund number 122 to the Snow and Ice Fund 423. $32,948 from the Long-Term Interest Fund number 711 to the Snow and Ice Fund number 423. $20,000 from the DPW Utilities Fund 429 to the Snow and Ice Fund 423. $15,000 from the Health Department Fund number 519 to the Snow and Ice Fund number 423. $15,000 from the Accounting Department Fund number 135 to the Snow and Ice number 423. $11,537 from the Police Department Fund number 210 to the Snow and Ice Fund number 423. $10,000 from the Operation Department Fund number 159 to the Snow and Ice Fund 423. $10,000 from the Insurance Department Fund number 945 to the Snow and Ice Fund number 423. $6,541 from the Veterans Department Fund number 543 to the Snow and Ice Fund number 423. And last but not least, $5,000 from the Election Fund number 160 to the Snow and Ice Fund number 423. Said transfers to total $375,000.33.
No. Ms. Thorpe?
$375.33, sorry.
Is there a second, the total number being $375,033?
Well, it was mandated that I read all of those account numbers and where the money was coming from. As Russ had mentioned, there is a deficit in our snow and ice department for $380,000. These transfers will be transferring funds that were unused in all of those line items to cover that deficit.
Yes, sir. Just stand at the microphone and wait to be recognized.
Okay, can you repeat the first transfer, please?
Certainly. $100,000 from the general fund reserve transfer number 132 to the health insurance number 914. So
Okay.
there was a deficit there too.
Okay, the deficit, again, was in employee benefits, and that's 914. That's health insurance. That's Exhibit A, all right? So you're asking how much to go into that fund?
You're talking about the
Transfer.
one right before us? That was $50,000.
No, the one that you just mentioned, that you...
That's excuse me.
$100,000.
That would be $100,000.
Okay,
Mr.
my
Townsend.
question is, and the employees pay 70%. See, a lot of times you'll come up here and you'll ask people to show up for town meetings, okay? If you were to poll most of the people at this town meeting, I would have to say 70% or at least 50% are town employees, and there's nothing wrong with that. All right, now if we go into the real world, in real world when it comes to running a business is health insurance. Health insurance costs are crazy. I mean, they're crazy. Mine's around 12 grand a year, which isn't that much. But when we start asking for transfer after transfer, I mean, me personally, I don't have a problem if we're giving money to buy a couple cop cars or 2 or 3 cop cars, or it doesn't matter because I know the cops protect me. I know when I open up my door and I see a cop going down the street, that makes me feel good because a burglar sees that cop going down the street. Now, when we're asking for transfers into health insurance, we have to enter the real world. The real world is simply this. Asking people to pay 50% of their health costs is fair. 70% does not exist in the private sector. 50% is not above the board. All right? So we will continue to have these transfers, and we will continue to go from 11 to 17 million, and 50,000 does not put a dent in 17 million. Do the math.
Okay, Mr.
Thank you,
Townsend,
sir.
your sentiments are so noted. But this is just to take care of a deficit and, okay.
Any additional questions? Yes, sir.
Well, on here it says that they didn't make a recommendation because there was insufficient information.
They did not make the recommendation at the time the warrant was published, but subsequent to the publication of the warrant, it is my understanding that the committee did receive this particular motion and allocation and voted to approve it, or voted to recommend it.
All right, we had some very nice exhibits and handouts. It was very nice. It would have been nice to also have been given this information along with this.
Thank you, sir.
So noted.
That's a good point. Seeing no additional questions, all those in favor of the motion made under Article 6, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Nay. That motion carries.
It's my great pleasure to say
Article 7.
Sorry. It's my great pleasure to say that there is no action being anticipated on this.
Thank you. Article 8.
Mr. Moderator, I move the town vote to appropriate $669,015 for the construction, reconstruction, and/or maintenance of public ways to be expended under the jurisdiction of the Board of Public Works and the said sum of reimbursement by the Commonwealth.
Is there a second? Does anybody have any question, or Mr. Wilson, do you want to do any explanation of what this is the so-called Chapter 90 money, I believe?
This is basically the Chapter 90 money plus the state gave out an extra $87,263 this year which accounts for that amount.
So again, just to make sure I understand and the voters understand, it's my understanding that these funds are actually going to be given to the town by the state, and then we use...
Yeah, they're giving those through Chapter 90
Right.
to repair the highways.
Is there a question there? Yes, sir.
Is this in addition to the funds for Elm Street, or does this include Elm Street?
This is for fiscal 2015.
Okay.
Those
Elm
monies
Street's
are
already funded?
Excuse me?
Elm Street is funded?
Correct.
You're going to start that?
July
You promise?
7th.
You promise?
Any additional questions? Okay, all those in favor of Article 8, the motion made under Article 8, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. That motion carries. Article 9.
Actually, Article 9 and 10 go hand in hand, but Article 9, I move the town to vote to accept the provisions of Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53E and a half, authorizing the creation of enterprise funds, and vote to establish pursuant to said Chapter 44, Section 53E and a half, a water services enterprise fund to commence on July 1st, 2015, to be operated under the jurisdiction of the Board of Public Works.
Is there a second?
This article is brought forth by the Board of Selectmen in conjunction with the Department of Public Works at the behest of our town auditor, who for the past 5 or 6 years has suggested, basically, I'll give a brief overview and then I'll have Dan Burek come up here to hopefully give some more gloss to what I'm saying. But basically, I believe the DPW has been running under basically a enterprise fund for the past few years, but it hasn't been made official, so the auditor suggested that we go through the process to make it an official enterprise fund, both the water and sewer. Dan, if you'd like to elaborate.
Again, it is the recommendation of the auditor that we're moving forward with this. Basically, what we're going to be doing, they're saying that it's a Department of Revenue requirement that we do this, and what we'll be doing is operating it as a separate business entirely. So right now the town pays for health insurance, retirement, a lot of other expenses. Those all will be transferred from the general fund over to the DPW for the water and sewer enterprise fund. So we'll be tracking all the expenses that pertain to the water and the sewer fund. So, and if you have any questions, we could have the auditor also, who's present here, talk about it.
Are there any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion made under Article 9, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. That motion carries unanimously. Article 10.
Article 10, I move the town vote to establish pursuant to the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53E and a half, a sewer enterprise fund to commence on July 1st, 2015, to be operated under the jurisdiction of the Board of Public Works.
Is there a second?
Once again, this is the same process that we just went through for the water fund, so if there's any questions, we can either have the auditor or Mr. Burek answer.
Are there any questions with respect to the sewer enterprise fund? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. That motion carries unanimously. Article 11.
Article 11. I move the town vote to reestablish a local cable access revolving fund for fiscal year 2015, which fund shall be separate from the general fund pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53E for the purpose of receiving and expending monies from public and private sources in order to fund the local cable access program activities as administered by the committee established for such purpose, without further appropriation said funds to be expended in an amount not to exceed $132,000 during the fiscal year as approved by the Board of Selectmen.
Is there a second? Is there any questions? Yes, sir.
Can you explain what...
Could you speak directly into the microphone?
Sure. Can you explain what the 132,000... I don't know, perhaps if someone from LCAT is here, 132,000, what that's for?
Yes, that 132,000 is for LCAT for football games, everything they televise. Part of the gentleman's salary comes out of that.
Okay. All right. I just want everyone, I know this is going to pass everything here, it always does. You need to know that this was $35,000 in 2006, and went up to $45,000 in 2007. It went up to $90,000 in 2008 or 9, and now it's at $132,000. I just think, you know, it's quite a bit. I mean, I know they're doing a great job. 132. You just have to keep your eye on your expenses, and percentage-wise, a lot of things are jumping up high. No different than our budget at $55 million. We're talking Long Meadow's $56 million, and they've got a new school. Wilbraham's like 37, 38, 39 million, and they've got a new school. So these are things that you want to keep in mind. Are you getting a return on your investment? But I'll vote for it because I think he's doing an excellent job. But just keep an eye on your expenses.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I've seen private sources a couple times. I'm wondering just what private sources means.
I believe private sources is from Charter, where they pay back to the town some of the money they collect from their bills that they send to people in the town. Is that correct? I mean, that was my understanding. Any further questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. That motion carries unanimously. Article 12.
Article 12, I move the town vote to reestablish a Center School Park revolving fund for fiscal year 2015, which fund shall be separate from the general fund pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53E and a half, for the purpose of receiving and expending monies from the public and private sources in order to fund the Center School Hill Park development activities as administered by East Long Meadow Cultural Affairs Council. Without further appropriation, said funds to be expended in the amount not to exceed $5,000 during the fiscal year as approved by the Board of Selectmen.
Is there a second? Are there any questions, any discussion? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I've got written here that I've seen it a lot of times. You see all these clubs, friends of, and there's all kinds of little private, more or less. They're not governmental, that come up and they want this, that, and the other thing from the town. You know, I don't know how many we got, but it's not just East Long Meadow, all over the place. They're coming up like, you know, dandelions, and now each one wants to be funded from the town. I think we ought to start taking a hard look at some of these things. We spend our money for a certain project, and then we find out it's in the hands of some friends or some other club or something.
Thank you, sir. Any additional questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion made under Article 12, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Nay. That motion carries. Article 13.
Mr. Moderator, I move the town vote to reestablish a solid waste disposal revolving fund for fiscal year 2015, which fund shall be separate from the general fund pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53E and a half, for the purpose of receiving and expending monies for public and private sources in order to fund the solid waste disposal program as administered by the committee established for such purpose. Without further appropriation, said funds to be expended in the amount not to exceed $50,000 during the fiscal year as approved by the Board of Selectmen.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. That motion carries unanimously. Article 14.
Article 14. I move the town vote to reestablish a Council on Aging revolving fund for fiscal year 2015, which fund shall be separate from the general fund pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53E and a half, for the purpose of receiving and expending monies from public and private sources in order to fund general program and activities of the Council on Aging, as administered by the committee established for each purpose, without further appropriation. Said funds to be expended in an amount not to exceed $120,000 during the fiscal year as approved by the Board of Selectmen.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay.
Nay.
That motion carries. Article 15.
I move the town vote to reestablish East Longmeadow Public Library revolving fund for fiscal year 2015, which fund shall be separate from the general fund pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53E and a half, for the purpose of receiving and expending monies from public and private sources paid by borrowers for library overdue fines, as administered by the East Longmeadow Board of Library Trustees, without further appropriation, said funds to be expended in an amount not to exceed $15,000 during the fiscal year as approved by the Board of Selectmen.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any questions? Yes, sir.
Art, I'd just like to say I think you guys are doing an excellent job, and I absolutely have no problem with the $15,000. It kind of mimics the article before us that was $120,000 and $50,000. But I've watched you and your committee, and I think you've done an excellent job, and I don't think $15,000 is out of the ordinary. So I'm definitely going to vote in favor of this.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Yes, please come step to the microphone.
Just a question. It looks like $15,000 goes in approximately from overdue fines. I'm wondering how it goes out, since the library had separate budget item.
It's used for the use of the library. It's primarily to maintain, as fines might be implied, in the gradual destruction of the library's resources.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. That motion carries unanimously. Article 16.
Mr. Moderator, I move the town vote to accept the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53D, authorizing the establishment of a revolving fund for recreational purposes, and authorize the Board of Selectmen to establish a Recreation Department revolving fund pursuant to said Chapter 44, Section 53D, and to transfer the balance of the current Recreation Revolving Fund, account number 2807 and 2808, into the new revolving fund effective July 1st, 2014, and upon said transfer, prior revolving funds, account numbers 2807 and 2808 will be dissolved.
Is there a second? Are there any questions? Yes, sir.
I find myself sitting here voting for all these little revolving funds when I really don't know what a revolving fund is. Maybe Mrs. Thorpe can tell us what a revolving fund is.
Sure. A revolving fund is set up so that funds can be distributed through and, wait a minute. Revolving funds are a fund that is set up so that funds can be fashioned through the separate departments. So that if there were a scholarship or something that somebody wanted to give to that department, they would be able to put it in the revolving fund. This particular revolving fund for the recreation department, some of the fees that are generated by their programs, and they need fees for they need fees for footballs, basketballs, and this way they can go into those revolving funds and get those and take those funds out and keep going on with their day-to-day practices. And if that didn't get it for you, I certainly will get somebody up here who will do a better job.
Well, don't they have a budget for that?
They have a, come on up, Tom. Yes. Attorney?
I mean, all these revolving funds, isn't there a budget for them? Why do they need extra money?
I'm going to go to Attorney Donahue first.
Don't they get fees from the parents that kids play soccer and things?
Well, the purpose, as the chairman indicated, the purpose of the revolving funds is to have the users of various programs in the recreation department, for example, to have those users pay the cost of participating in the fund or in the program. And the money is then kept in the department in that fund and used to keep running that program year after year, and it's replenished each year by the fees that the next year's participants use. There is a budget for the recreation department as for the other departments that have revolving funds, but these monies are not part of the budget. They're just maintaining those specific programs that are being paid for by the users.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion made under Article 16, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. That motion carries unanimously. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been advised by counsel that when we took the votes under Articles 9 and 10 to establish the water and sewer enterprise funds, the section reference that was used in the motion that was approved, in each case unanimously, which read and was spoken as section, or Chapter 44, Section 53E and a half, should actually have been Chapter 44, Section 53F and a half. And so for the sake of clarity and to make sure we don't have any issues with any of the state regulators or Mr. Scanlon, our auditor, I would entertain a motion that the votes taken under Articles 9 and 10 be confirmed, referencing General Laws Chapter 44, Section 53F and a half in each case. Is there a second? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Thank you. Article 17.
I move the town vote to transfer from free cash, account number 01-3590, the amount of $17,500 to be expended for the July 4th, 2015 Independence Day Parade.
Is there a second?
Second.
As you may have noted, this is for the parade not coming up this July, but next year and next July, because a while back we had appropriated the money so it wouldn't be a last-minute decision for the parades, and we decided to get a jump ahead by years. And also, just by way of explanation quickly, for years this item was just in the general celebrations fund in the town budget, but about 3 or 4 years ago we decided for transparency purposes to actually segregate it and make it a separate vote on the town meeting floor. And if I may say personally, obviously the parade, as you all know, is a crown jewel in our town. Everybody loves it. We get great crowds. It's a benefit. It helps the businesses that are on the parade line make money that day. And if I may say on a personal note, I've been involved in the parade for at least 15 years. And I know it's his last year, but I wanted to thank Carl Olin because he's one of the reasons I've stayed in the parade. He's been so dedicated in getting the parade going every year, and it's such a huge undertaking. And the parade would not have succeeded without him and the people involved with him, who many of them are leaving. We've put a good group together to run the parade from here on, but we could have never done it without Carl and his group. And I just wanted to, personally thank him because he's done a tremendous job putting this parade on the map.
Before Mr. Townsend speaks, I mentioned at the beginning that there was one article that the Appropriations Committee did not recommend. This is that article.
Okay. And you know what? It's kind of funny. That's why I got up to speak. I think that before this should definitely pass. I'll tell you why. $17,500 on a $55 million budget is tripping over dollars to save pennies. You know what I mean? The bottom line is it's such a minor percentage of what this does for the community. The joy and the happiness that it brings to the children. My business is right across the street. We have the carnival right in the center of town. We have people that volunteer, give their time. They're not getting compensated for this. Carl Olin, he has a heart of gold. He certainly deserves an award, and I would really encourage this to be a unanimous vote.
Thank you. Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none or seeing none, all those in favor of the motion made under Article 17, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Article 18.
I move the town vote to accept the recommendations of the Community Preservation Committee and appropriate from the Community Preservation Fund for fiscal year 2015 from revenues estimated of $230,000 allocated as follows. 5% allocated to the administrative expenses, 10% allocated to the Historic Resource Reserve, 10% to the Community Housing Reserve, 10% allocated to the Open Space Reserve, and 65% allocated to the Undesignated General Reserve.
Is there a second?
This is our annual housekeeping item that we need to have passed in order to stay consistent with state law. We are not asking for any actual expenditures of money from the Community Preservation Fund at this town meeting.
Are there any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor? Oh, I'm sorry. If you have a question with respect to any of the motions, just stand in front of either microphone and I can recognize you.
What's the balance in that fund right now?
I'm told that at the end of the fiscal year, our balance will be about $500,000, of which approximately half is committed to projects that are currently in progress.
Okay, thanks.
Any further questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion made under Article 18, please signify by saying aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. That motion carries unanimously.
John Mayberry, Board of Public Works. Mr. Moderator and ladies and gentlemen, Article 19 will be withdrawn.
Thank you, sir. Do you want to?
I just want to make a couple of brief comments. We had put Article 9 in as a placeholder a little bit earlier in the process when there was consideration for another building for the town hall or the employees of the town hall. The building department, DPW, did some plans for the town hall, and we were looking at possibilities of renovations such as what we did for the senior center as an alternative if the article for the alternative town hall did not go through. The article for the town hall was completely withdrawn, doesn't even show up tonight. And so it was kind of in the late months coming up to this town meeting that we had put the proposals together. We did a variety of plans, just kind of taking upon ourselves to look at some options for electrical panels that need to be replaced, sprinkler system, bathrooms that need attention, and most of all, the overcrowding for the IT department, Selectman's office, HR, some things that I think we all know have been a point of discussion for several years. Going forward from tonight, the Department of Public Works, working with the building manager, and all of the departments in the town hall, selectmen, and all the departments, we're going to work together this year. No more studies. We're going to work together to see if we can actually come up with a definitive plan with enough notice so that appropriations, capital, and all department heads and employees affected by this will have an opportunity to voice their opinions, and hopefully we can do something similar or along the lines of what we did for the senior center in its major renovation and its very purposeful use that we now have. So hopefully you'll stay tuned for something that we bring with the anticipation of some approval of the townspeople. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayberry. Article 20.
George Kingston for the Planning Board. I move that the town vote to amend the East Longmeadow zoning bylaw 1991 revision pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40A, by replacing Section 6 with the language all is set forth in Article 20 of the warrant as published, and that the reading be waived, and pass any vote or take any other action relative thereto. This article, along with 4 additional articles, regulates the siting and operations of medical marijuana treatment centers / registered marijuana dispensaries, which I'll refer to as RMDs, under the zoning bylaw. Note that 5 articles are required because this is how many sections of the bylaw need to be amended. A little history. By vote at the state election on November 6, 2012, the voters of the Commonwealth approved a law regulating the cultivation, distribution, possession, and use of marijuana for medical purposes. On March 13, 2013, in a decision issued to the town of Wakefield, the Attorney General ruled that an outright ban on medical marijuana dispensaries conflicted with the statute passed by ballot petition in 2012 that ensures reasonable access to marijuana treatment centers. That law's purpose cannot be served if a municipality were to prohibit treatment centers within its borders, for if one municipality were allowed to do so, all could do so, making reasonable access impossible. The Attorney General's office did conclude that municipalities can adopt other zoning bylaws to regulate, for example, the location of these treatment centers within the town. At our 2013 regular town meeting, you voted to put in place a temporary moratorium on the establishment of such facilities. That moratorium expires on June 30th of this year. We must now put in place the appropriate zoning regulations concerning the location and operation of such facilities, or a proponent will be free to locate one in any industrial, commercial, or business location in town. The Planning Board and our director worked hard to come up with regulations that would limit any potential negative effects of such a facility, with special emphasis on separating one from places where children congregate and from churches, while still meeting the criteria set out by the Attorney General for reasonability. The key points of the article before you are: registered marijuana dispensaries are only allowed under special permit. Such facilities are only allowed in the Industrial Garden Park District. No registered marijuana dispensary shall be located within 300 feet of any residence or residential zoning district. No RMD shall be located within 500 feet of any pre-existing church, school, park, playground, athletic playing field, or the youth center. And finally, no RMD shall be located within 1,000 feet of any pre-existing school attended by children under the age of 18, licensed child care facility, drug or alcohol rehabilitation facility, halfway house or similar facility, or any other RMD.
Are there any questions? And I will note that this motion and the next several motions will all require a two-thirds vote because they are changes to our zoning bylaw, or in a couple of instances, land-taking votes. So most of the votes from here on will be two-thirds requirements. So are there any questions with respect to the motion made under Article 20? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Nay. That motion carries. Article 21.
I move that the town vote to amend the East Long Meadow zoning bylaw 1991 revision pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40A, by replacing Section 7.38 with the language as set forth in Article 21 of the warrant, and that the reading be waived, and pass any vote or take any other action relative thereto.
Is there a second? Mr. Kingston, do you have further discussion for each of these, or was your... You do?
A little bit I want to add here.
Fine.
This article sets out the additional requirements for registered marijuana dispensaries to be imposed by special permit, including the mandatory findings that must be made if a special permit is to be issued.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. That motion carries by two-thirds. Article 22.
I move that the town vote to amend the East Long Meadow zoning bylaw 1991 revision pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40A, by amending Section 8 definitions, all as set forth in Article 22 of the warrant, and that the reading be waived, and pass any vote or take any other action relative thereto.
Is there a second?
I just want to note that this article adds specific definitions related to RMDs to the zoning bylaw. Please note that these definitions are taken directly from the state regulations regarding RMDs. They're included to make sure that our bylaw is consistent with the state regulations.
Are there any questions? Again, a two-thirds vote is required. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. That motion carries unanimously. Article 23.
Mr. Moderator, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Michael Carabetta for the Planning Board. I move that the town vote to amend the East Long Meadow zoning bylaw 1991 revision pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 48, by amending Section 7.39 by replacing existing language in its entirety and replacing with the language all is set forth on the Article 23 of the warrant, and that the reading be waived.
Second?
This is to facilitate people in the industrial section of town. They came to us and they wanted to do some retail sales in their place of business without really conflicting with their primary source of sales. We looked at this in other surrounding communities. We thought this was a good idea. It would be helpful for them and their business, so we went ahead and presented it for you folks tonight.
Are there any questions? This requires a two-thirds vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. That motion carries unanimously. Article 24.
continuing saga. I move that the town vote to amend the East Long Meadow zoning bylaw 1991 revision pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40A, by amending Table 3.1 by adding Section 3.079.2 of the East Long Meadow Schedule of Use Regulations as set forth in Article 24 of the warrant, and that the reading be waived.
Is there a second?
This article again relates to registered marijuana dispensaries and simply adds them to the table of uses in the zoning bylaw with the limitations you already voted for in Article 20.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, again, this is a two-thirds vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. That motion carries unanimously. Article 25.
I move that the town vote to amend the East Long Meadow zoning bylaw 1991 revision pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 48, by amending Table 3.2 by adding a new use to the East Long Meadow dimensional and density regulations, all as set forth in Article 25 of the warrant, and that the reading be waived.
Is there a second?
This is the last one on medical marijuana, and basically all it does is to incorporate the approvals you already have into the table of dimensions in the bylaw.
Any discussion? Again, this is a zoning bylaw. A two-thirds vote is required. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. That carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Kingston. You went above and beyond. One could even say you went one toke over the line. Article 26.
I move that the town vote to amend East Long Meadow zoning bylaw 1991 revision pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 48, by further amending Table 3.1 by adding a new use to the East Long Meadow Schedule of Use Regulations as set forth in Article 26 of the warrant, as previously amended by Article 24, and that the reading be waived.
Is there a second?
Yeah, I don't think there's really any discussion. This is kind of continuation of what we've been talking about, the marijuana bylaw. Industrial gardens, I'm sorry.
Are there any questions? Again, a two-thirds vote is required. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. That motion carries unanimously. Article 27.
I move that the town vote to amend the East Long Meadow zoning bylaw 1991 revision pursuant to MGL Chapter 40A by changing Section 5.611A by inserting the language, all as set forth in Article 27 of the warrant, and that the reading be waived.
Is there a second? Is there any discussion or questions? Again, this is a, yes ma'am.
Okay, why do we need this? Why has this been proposed?
Basically, they're proposing it for commuter and satellite parking. We're trying not to allow that, just to the casinos that are coming into town.
Okay, but wouldn't that also prohibit someone from, leaving their car for the day so they can ride with a friend together somewhere? It just seems that by prohibiting the big scary thing of the casino stuff, that we may be limiting normal practices. That
well, basically, we want to allow the business to use their own business parking lot for their employees and their relative business to the day throughout the day. No commuter parking, no satellite parking.
Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah, just one quick question. Would this also affect, for instance, the business allowing the Rays of Hope to have people park there so they can be bussed?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Absolutely not.
Thanks.
Are there any additional questions? Again, a two-thirds vote is required on this. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Nay. That motion carries. Article 28.
Good evening. I'm Ralph Page with the East Long Meadow Planning Board. I move that the town vote to amend the East Long Meadow zoning bylaw 1991 revision pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, by amending Section 3.090 by deleting the existing language in its entirety and replacing with the language all as set forth in Article 28 of the warrant, with any references in such article to read 3.090 in place of 3.90, and that the reading be waived.
Is there a second?
Second. This bylaw was originally created through the Zoning Review Committee. They took a look at what we had in our book, and they decided that some of the language needed to be clarified. Times have changed. We now allow, there's a lot more people that run businesses on the computer at home. Although there's no interruption to the residential neighborhood, there's no disturbances, we as a planning board felt as though they should be allowed to be able to do this.
Is there any discussion or are there any questions? Again, this is a two-thirds vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. That motion carries. Article 29.
Rick Murray, town resident for 18 years. Mr. Moderator, I move that the town add an amendment to the bylaws, section 8.090, disturbing and unnecessary noise, to include animal noise. This amendment would prohibit the keeping of any animal or bird which by causing frequent or long continued noise shall disturb the reasonable comfort or repose of any person. This would in particular include roosters from free-range poultry and urban backyard farming operations located in residential areas.
Is there a second?
Can't this be covered under just normal noise ordinances?
Please wait to be recognized, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Mr. Murray, do you have anything you want to say in advance?
Question? I said, can't this be covered under normal ordinances? Because it's a high precedence to set that any animal, especially a farm animal, I mean, a cow may moo and somebody will complain, or a horse neigh. I mean, where are we setting the bar here?
Do you want to respond to that, sir?
Well, I haven't had a horse keep me up at night or wake me up at 4:30 in the morning, so with a neighing.
I know one person has a problem with a rooster.
Well, it's not more than one.
We're gonna set a precedent, or
it's just common courtesy to neighbors, sir. That's all.
Okay. I understand that.
Okay,
wouldn't normal, ordinary noise ordinances cover this without making a new bylaw?
Apparently, he doesn't.
Is there
feel,
someone
he doesn't feel
who
it
knows?
does. Can anybody from the Board of Selectmen or Board of Health indicate whether there
This would
are
not be covered under any
noise-
other bylaw or noise ordinance where the police would be called and said, hey, you've got to keep your animal quiet?
I would think it
I think
probably
this is a
would. I think
dangerous precedent.
Well, and also I think it's right in line with like maybe if you have a dog that barks continuously and maybe is a nuisance.
Thank you. Okay, let's not.
It's reflective of nuisance noise is what we're talking about.
We're not going to have a dialogue back and forth, please. We're having a debate. Mr. Townsend.
I do have a few questions. I did show up for this article because I have someone that approached me about this article, and she didn't have, she was shy, she didn't have the courage to come here. So I'm going to move to amend the motion, but I do have a few questions for you before I do that. You don't have to tell me where you live, but there are some people that own 3, 4, 5 acre homes in this town, and like this gentleman just mentioned, he has larger, a horse I would consider a large animal. I mean, I don't have any large animals, but I have a few questions for you. One of them being, how big is your lot size in your house, and what
That's irrelevant, Mr. Townsend.
Okay, well, okay. Well,
sir, I think maybe I can sum it up for you. I'm not opposed to free-range chicken farming. I have neighbors all around me that have them. I'm opposed to the nuisance noise from the roosters crowing at incessant hours of the morning and pretty much all day long. That's what it's about.
Well, again, the reason why I showed up is because this woman owns a rooster, and she owns a 4-acre lot. And I'm going to listen to what they have to say, and then I'm going to get back up and make a motion to move to amend the main motion that you're talking about. And I will listen to what they have to say before I make that motion. But again, this woman came in, and she doesn't have the courage to come up. She's shy. She's got a rooster that's about this big. I told her to bring the rooster here. She said that she wouldn't. And
thankfully.
I'm sorry?
I said thankfully.
Well, I mean, it's just, to me, this is the great part about a town meeting. It gives people the opportunity to come up and speak, and we respect what you're here for. We just have questions for you. All right? So I'm going to let the other people ask their questions, and then I'm going to see how it goes, and I'm going to make a motion to move to amend it.
Thank you, Mr. Townsend. Sure. Yes, ma'am.
I would like to say that my daughters and I are the owners of said rooster. And the reason why this warrant article is presented before us tonight, I'm sorry, I'm very nervous. We have abided by the noise ordinance and done all we can to appease this gentleman to no avail. Our coop is insulated with 30R. It has a cement bottom. It is what's the
soundproof?
It's soundproof. My girls put the chickens in at 8 p.m. and they let the chickens out at 7 a.m. We were made aware of this gentleman's complaint, and we abided by that noise ordinance ever since then. There has been no complaint to the police department about any rooster crowing. You might wonder why we have a rooster. From the time my girls were 7, they decided to take over the care of the chickens, and since then it has become a business for them. Mind you, it's small, but in any case, they feed the chickens, clean the coop, take care in collecting the eggs and baby chicks. They hatch out per order, and they pay for all the feed, bedding, and other expenses involved. As smart entrepreneurs, they have realized a dozen chicks at $30 to $50 is more profitable than a dozen eggs at $4.50. Thus, the need for a rooster. As a parent and member of this community, I strongly feel we should support our youth. In any and all productive endeavors. Is that not part of what we are called to do as parents and a community? We are meant to teach our children to be contributing members to our family and town, and in doing so, do our children not learn responsibility and ownership and what it all entails, looks like, feels like, is? It is hard work to be proud of at any age. My girls are 12 years old. They've been doing this for 3 years. This is a viable business. My girls have been selling eggs and hatching chicks for 3 years now. We are licensed as a business in East Longmeadow. We are licensed by the state. We have a federal ID. All our birds are tested once a year for disease, and animal control is free to inspect our chickens anytime, and they do so. And it should be said that we are zoned RA, which states we can and have the right to raise poultry. So in closing, my daughters and I ask you to consider what this will mean if this warrant article passes. This warrant article is not just about a nuisance cockerel fowl, AKA rooster.
Thank you, yes, sir.
I just wanted to say, under our last open space and
Could you get a little closer to the microphone? Thank you.
Under our last open space and rec department, we looked at throughout the whole town, and one of the main things the town wanted to keep was an agricultural feel for the town. In doing so, if we start limiting farm animals, I think that's going to completely take away from it. I mean, I can understand a nuisance, and that's why we have the noise bylaw that we have. I think what we have on the books is sufficient, and I would have to disagree with the petition. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. It's a hard act to follow some of these discussions. I just want to say I live in a neighborhood with roosters. I do not own a rooster, but I love the noise of the roosters. I find it to be the sound of life and fresh eggs. In fact, we're all nearby. But just to say, if you hadn't made up your mind on this, if you hadn't had an opinion, to just think about how balanced our town is compared to some of our neighboring towns, that we do have room for farmland and industry and small business and residential neighborhoods that are perfectly manicured and have covenants to keep them perfect, and residential neighborhoods that have funky roosters and kids playing everywhere. And we have room for all those things. So I just want to say, please consider that, keeping our town balanced and making room for a little bit of everything. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Kingston?
Mr. Moderator, I'd like to raise a point of order. The motion as read was significantly different from the motion as printed, and significantly broader. The motion as printed refers only to roosters. The motion as read refers to any animal, which would include dogs and so on. I would ask whether the motion as actually submitted was the same one that was read, and if not, if you could read the motion that was actually submitted versus what was read as a motion.
The motion that was submitted and initialed by me reads, I move that the town add an amendment to the bylaws, section 8.090, disturbing and unnecessary noise, to include animal noise. This amendment would prohibit the keeping of any animal or bird which, by causing frequent or long continued noise, shall disturb the reasonable comfort or repose of any person. This would in particular include roosters from free-range poultry and urban backyard farming operations located in residential areas.
I would ask whether the broadening of the motion vastly beyond what was printed in the article is appropriate under town meeting rules.
You make a good point, sir. The article, as I recall, don't need to recall, I will read it. We, the undersigned, request a modification to the town noise ordinance prohibiting nuisance cockerel fowl, AKA roosters, from residential areas. I would agree with Mr. Kingston, Mr. Murray, that to expand the definition or the inclusion of the animals beyond the nuisance cockerel fowl, people would not have been sufficiently warned to that effect. In addition to which, I read the article as limited to residential areas, and I don't believe that the motion that you made, while it refers to residential areas, I'm not sure it is limited to residential areas. So I think in order to proceed, you would need to carve this back to limit it to roosters within residential areas. Would you want to make a motion to accomplish that?
Yes, I would move that we would make the reference that the moderator just spoke of.
Okay, so there's a motion to amend the main motion that was made to limit it to roosters and residential areas. So just for the to be certain we're clear, I would suggest then that the language that you're as limited would read something like, I move that the town add an amendment to the bylaws section 8.090, disturbing and unnecessary noise, to include roosters. This amendment would prohibit the keeping of any rooster which by causing frequent or long continued noise shall disturb the reasonable comfort or repose of any person.
And I'm in agreement with that. I'm in agreement.
Okay, in residential areas. Okay, so we need to take a vote on the motion to amend. This is not a motion. This vote does not approve the zone change or the bylaw change. It is simply to carve the original motion back. So all those in favor of the amendment to the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Nay. I don't think that carried. So the motion, your main motion then remains unchanged, and I would say that that is beyond the scope of the original warrant. So we can't take any further action on it.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Article 30, I don't believe there is intended to be any action on Article 30. Article 31. And ladies and gentlemen, Article 31 is going to be presented by Attorney Jim Martin. Sadly, Attorney Martin is not a resident of East Longmeadow, but he does represent clients who are from East Longmeadow, and he has requested, and I have given permission to have him speak to the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I move that the town vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to take in fee simple pursuant to the provisions of General Laws, Chapter 79, or otherwise acquire as a town way Great Woods 11 Canterbury Circle as described in Article 31 of the warrant, that no damages be awarded for said taking, and that the reading be waived.
Is there a second? Is there any discussion? Yes, there was a second. Ladies and gentlemen, this represents, this article calls for essentially a land taking, and as a result requires a 2/3 vote. Mr. Denver?
Mr. Moderator, could someone from the Board of Public Works or from the Board of Selectmen tell me whether the town will have any financial obligations as a result of this taking, i.e. having to put water and sewer in, having to put sidewalks in, improving the pavement on the roadway? I'd like to know what the future expenses are going to be, plowing of the street, so forth and so on.
Does somebody from the Board of Public Works or the Board of Selectmen wish to speak to that?
We voted to approve this. It's up to standards. All of that's been installed to the town standard. There's a slight paving issue, but we're going to retain a portion of the bond that we already hold. That should be corrected by the end of this week on this particular road.
I just have a question. When the development first started, it was agreed upon that those residents would take care of their own little community, right? The street and everything?
I don't believe so. I mean,
well, it would already be part of the town if it wasn't.
Typically, as the road gets developed, it's turned over to the town and becomes a public way.
But that never happened.
Not this section. Other sections have been accepted. Every other section thus far has been accepted.
So as a developer can come into the town and develop a development, collect the money as if it's a singularity, and then leave, and then the town, they can say, okay, now I want the town to have it because we don't want to take care of the road, the sewer, any water problems.
The people on the street that buy the houses pay the taxes to the town and live
I understand that. They have to.
Correct. So therefore, we accept the road as a community.
From the very beginning, the town accepted the road?
No. Once it's developed and up to the town standard, then the petition the town to accept the road, and it becomes a public way.
But now the taxpayers have to deal with it.
It's my understanding that's customarily the process by which...
I understand that, but this is a small town. We're not a major city. You can't compare yourself to other towns and how they handle things.
Every road in this town was accepted in the same method.
Let me just ask, has the planning board taken a position on the roads in the subdivision? I assume this was an approved subdivision?
Yes, it was approved by the planning board. We leave it up to the DPW to determine how the road's been constructed to make sure it meets all their standards.
That's my point.
Okay, so
that was my main question is the town has to decide whether it meets our expectations before it's handed to us.
That is set forth in the standards to begin with, and the DPW goes out to make sure that the road is up to their standards.
And all of this has been done?
Correct.
Okay, well, I didn't hear that. That's why I just had a question about that.
That's why I asked the question.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Carabetta. Mr. Wilson, anything else? Are there any other questions? Again, this requires a 2/3 vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. That motion carries unanimously. Article 32.
I move the town vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to take in fee simple pursuant to the provisions of General Law, Chapter 79, or otherwise acquire as a town way Black Dog Lane as described in Article 32 of the warrant, that no damages be awarded for said taking, and that the reading be waived.
Is there a second?
This, as the other article, involves developer posting a bond and building the road in accordance with the specifications of the town. The road has been inspected and approved by the DPW. There are some issues that are being addressed in coordination with the DPW, and the board has voted to accept it.
Is there any discussion or are there any questions? Okay, a 2/3 vote is required for this. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. That motion carries unanimously. I understand that no action is intended to be taken on Article 33, so I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? Second. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you very much for attending this evening.